So, and you mentioned in the beginning as well, you mentioned about blockchain. I know that Enclave is actually away from that, but did the blockchain kind of influence technology and blockchain influence you putting together Conclave for data privacy? Did that kind of drive it?
Yeah, it's funny you ask because I think everybody likes you do these kinds of CXO meetings and CDO meetings, and everybody wants to present themselves as if they're sort of like these sort of these geniuses with 10-year visions and all the rest of it. But I don't mind admitting that Conclave, we as R3, we didn't envisage this as a product until 2 years ago. We started trying to solve the privacy problem, and we started working with confidential computing technologies 4 or 5 years ago, because exactly as you say, we had to solve a very specific privacy problem for our enterprise blockchain. Corda, our blockchain, is all about synchronizing data between different firms and doing so securely and with privacy. And Corda was designed that way, and Corda has industry-leading privacy. But we always knew there were some use cases where the privacy that you get out of the box needed to be augmented. And we realized that confidential computing technologies, and in our case, Intel SGX, could bridge that gap. So we began an R&D project to build a component for Corda that could add that extra layer of privacy. And then, frankly, the team just did a really good job. And a couple of years ago, we looked at it and said, "Hang on, this is solving the problem for Corda." So it's kind of like it's in the blockchain sort of blockchain niche. But actually, this thing is more generally applicable. We built a very general purpose programming environment for writing algorithms in Java that can then be converted to run in this way where they can prove to their users what will happen to their data. So we said, you know what, we're sitting on a second potentially really transformational product. We should move it into its own division and bring it out as its own product. So I don't mind admitting that Conclave began as a sort of like a solution to a problem. It was a component of Corda, and then we realized, hang on, this is actually a software development kit for everybody, and we should market it as such and finish building it out. So yeah, there's a strong tie-in with the blockchain use case, but it's also independently valuable, and that's how we bring it to market.
Great. And so, what do you foresee in the future for, in terms of the product, in terms of how can you, what CDOs should be doing, to kind of head off all the stuff that's going to come at them from a data privacy standpoint, right? What should they be doing, in the next few months, next year, or 12 months from now, in order to, because the data privacy is becoming the biggest issue, I think, at times, and especially this year.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think I don't know who knows about the future, but I think there's a few things at play. So the first thing is just as table stakes, if you like. I think every CDO has an obligation to their firm and their CEO to get to a point where they understand what confidential computing is. Maybe it's appropriate for their business today, maybe it's not. But just as everybody is expected to have a view on other technologies, you will be expected to have a view on confidential computing. The thing I would urge you to consider in that part of the question's answer is there are two ways you can look at confidential computing. The one I've talked about is all about opportunity. It's about how can I, as a firm, offer new products and services to my clients, or take advantage of products and services that are all based on knowing for sure what will happen to data when it moves from A to B. There's another usage of confidential computing that my team doesn't focus on, but I should talk about, which is quite a simple idea, which is if I'm going to move a sensitive workload to the cloud, I want to know the cloud provider and their employees can't see what I'm doing and steal my data, and confidential computing can happen there. So I'd say, as a CDO, make sure you understand both use cases. Lift and shift your applications to the cloud in a way that's protected, but also take advantage of or deliver new services that can prove how they use their data. So that's the understanding piece. The second piece is to think about my Facebook example. Today, if you, as a firm watching this, were to launch a website either for corporate customers or for consumers, and it was not secured with that padlock with TLS, it would be unthinkable. It would be negligent to do so, and you'd have no right calling yourself a technologist. It is just the table stakes for technology. My sense is in 5, 10 years, maybe faster, but let's say 5, 10 years, we will look back on today and say, what were we thinking? We were sending data from A to B with no constraint at all on it about how it would be used. We will look back on ourselves in 2021 thinking, what were we thinking? Just as we look back at people using online banking without the padlock, we will look back on our present selves from the future saying, you guys were absolutely out of your minds, just the risks you were taking. So that's the assumption. At some point in the future, data will not be shared from A to B unless it is in one of these enclave boxes. If that's your planning assumption, then just work backwards and say, any new service we're planning to build, by the time it's live, it's probably likely that it will be expected. So plan for it today. It is just going to happen. And then my third point is, and I think people sometimes miss this, is usually regulators don't mandate technologies. They'll have a view on things, and they usually lay down principles. You should do this, you should not do this. But I'm pretty sure that, and it just seems inevitable, that once the regulators in certain countries realize that it is possible to constrain what happens to data when it moves from A to B, at some point, they're going to turn around to the companies they regulate and say, guys, this technology exists. This allows you to protect your customers' data when someone else is using it. Why are you not using it? Why are you not taking advantage of a technology that can provide so much protection for your customers? And at some point, it will just change, and you'll be asked, why are you not using it? So those who've not caught up and kept up with this will suddenly find themselves very exposed. So net, get yourselves to a point where you really understand both use cases. Imagine if it gets deployed at scale, how we look at our present selves, and use the fact that regulators at some point will wake up to this and they will start mandating it. And you bring those things together. And I think very quickly, most people will kind of reach the level of almost urgency I have, which is this technology and this concept is coming. It's just a matter of when.
Excellent. Well, Richard, thank you. Listen, this conversation could go on, right? It just needs to be talked about and continue to be talked about, right? Until every company has some sort of technology in place like yours. But I tell you, listen, this is kind of at the end, but I want to thank Richard Brown. I want to thank R3 Technology for actually allowing you to come on and speak to us as well. This is great. I want to say thank you again for this, Richard. But and I just want to say out to the folks, hey, look, please visit cdomagazine.tech for more additional interviews. And I want to say signing off, but thank you, everyone.